find beautiful things that evolution wants to encourage us to enjoy and get more of. That's, part of the feeling of pleasure that we get from a beautiful thing. Now, we as human beings have quite a challenge to get our sensory act in order, so to speak. When you look out at the world, you want to interpret it, or evolution wants you to interpret it as a world of three-dimensional objects you can move around in, possibly threatening things, possibly things you want to mate with, possibly things you want to eat, and so. But the signal that arrives on our retina is a two-dimensional image, scrambled often. It's a very non-trivial task, as some of you may be exploring computer vision know. It's a very non-trivial task to figure out how we do it. Part of it has to be that we're intuitively very good at projective geometry. We can go back from a two-dimensional image to the three-dimensional thing it might have produced. But to actually codify the rules of projective geometry and perspective was very difficult. We don't know how we do it, but a very large part of the human brain is devoted to precisely this visual processing. And part of it has to be learned. And so as in the process of learning, when we make successful generalizations, I think that's something we want to get rewarded for and find beautiful. Now, if you can identify patterns that nature actually conforms to, if you can say, for instance, symmetry, if an object is symmetric, you can infer how some of it behaves that you haven't seen from parts that you have seen, or you can anticipate the parts you haven't seen yet from the appearance of things you have seen. So symmetry, I think, is something we're naturally inclined to find beautiful because it's useful. And so it's not entirely a coincidence. And of course, the idea that things can be built up from simpler pieces is also a very useful thing in understanding the world and in interacting with it. And so that kind of exuberance is also something that we are naturally inclined to find beautiful because it's useful. Okay? Now, I thought about that by myself, but I'm told that's a kind of Kantian explanation. It's sort of in the theory of how we have to interact with the world. There are apparent facts about the world, like its beauty, that get explained, but they're not really, sort of doesn't matter if their properties. It's not a coincidence that we find it beautiful, that the way the world works we find beautiful.